Good morning, friends. It is Tuesday, and I wanted to start the reading vlog. I have a busy week this week at work. I ended up finishing the audiobook for The Rivalry by Nikki Sloan. This is a new adult sports romance. The hero and the heroine are in college, so they're like 22-ish, and he is a running back or lineman or something football related on one school's team, and she is a cheerleader on the opposite, like the enemy rival team's cheerleading team. And she has like always been very into football her whole life. She was like born in the stands at a football game, that whole shebang. So like football is her and her family's life. And then she's attending a wedding and they meet and she doesn't know who he is, and it goes from there. I ended up giving this 3 stars. In Nikki Sloan fashion, it is very steamy, very sexy, but in my opinion, the heroine was extremely immature, and I actually couldn't stand reading from her point of view. Main conflict in their relationship was the fact that they go to different schools, like rival schools, and everybody in the book was telling her like, hey, it's not that big of a deal, but she just kept making it a conflict, which was weird to me. As someone that doesn't really care about sports, maybe that's like a me thing that I don't understand that, but to me it just came off really immature. And then also the sports, I knew I wasn't into sports, but it was Nikki Sloan, so I was gonna forgive it, and I think I could have if the heroine wasn't so annoying. Those two things combined just weren't working for me. I started the audiobook for His and Hers. It's a mystery thriller, and so far I'm not that far into it. The audiobook is interesting. The guy narrator, his voice sounds like it's distorted in some way. I think it's supposed to be something along the lines of you're listening to a tape of something that he's recorded, and I think he's like a killer. And then the other point of view is just this woman that so far I don't know what her connection to him is yet, but she seems to have this vendetta against some people at her work. So that's kind of the groundwork that we've gotten so far, and we know that she has been demoted at work, and she has a son or she had a daughter and a husband that we don't know what happened to them. But other than that, that's really all I've learned so far. I can't actually listen to it in the car because the guy's voice just distorts really weird through my car speakers. I was going to read the Diviners series in this week, but I started to read the Diviners and I just wasn't feeling it. So I think I'm going to start Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first book in the first series in his Cosmere, and I'm not quite sure what this is about, and honestly I don't think anybody can really explain what this is about, but I really want to get through his Cosmere this year. So I have read Elantris, and now I'm reading this one. This is the Final Empire, the first book, and I'm excited to get into it. And what I really like about Brandon Sanderson and what I'm excited about is his writing is actually very accessible. That's not something you would expect from someone that writes high fantasy, that's been doing it for years, and that has such an extensively large amount of books with amount of pages and intricate stories. But his writing is very easy to get into, and yeah, I'm ready to jump into this finally. And then I also need an ebook, and I think I'm going to start one of my Kindle Unlimited books. I'm thinking Den of Vipers, which is like a reverse harem, but I've heard it's absolutely bonkers. So I would like to try that. But other than that, that's really the update. I hope you guys have a wonderful Tuesday, and we will talk later. So listen, it's Wednesday, and His and Hers is very boring. I'm 30% of the way through, and nothing is happening. They died in the prologue, and that's basically it. One of the main characters is a detective, and all of them are connected in some way, and we're just dealing with a bunch of drama, and it's kind of a little bit boring, but I don't know whether I should continue or not. I started the audiobook for The Great Alone, and it was kind of what I thought it was. For some reason, I thought it was like her newest book, but that's something else that I am actually interested in reading as well. But the main character is a young girl in the start of the book. She's 13, and her dad is a veteran, and he is suffering from some ramifications of being in Vietnam. He ends up getting fired from his job, so they leave. They end up getting a letter saying that they were awarded this land from someone who has died that was in Vietnam with him. So it's in Alaska, and they go, and it's like in the middle of nowhere. There's like 45 people living there. There's no electricity, no running water, no nothing. You know, the dad is still abusive, and the town is very divided. It's a town, like one of the characters basically says, like, there's two types of people that live here, and one of them is like people that are running away from something. Those are people that you need to keep an eye on, and her dad is definitely one of those people that's trying to run away. Meanwhile, there's like this big divide in the town. Her dad on one side and her love interest's dad on the other side, and her love interest dad and her mom have like this thing, but her dad is like believes that she's cheating on him from the jump. Very possessive, very jealous, and an alcoholic. So it's just kind of a bad combination. The part that I'm at, I think I'm like 30% of the way through only. It's like a 24-hour audiobook. It's interesting. It definitely feels a lot longer than probably reading it physically, because it's seems to be dragging, but that's not abnormal with what I'm currently reading. Yeah, that's really my update. I don't have anything that I'm reading physically right now. I think I'm gonna give up on my Diviners reread. I just am not really feeling it anymore, but I have some themed reading vlogs coming up that I'm excited for, that I need to jump on. But this week is kind of just me reading whatever, I guess. Anyways, I don't know what the point of this update was, so I'm gonna go back to doing some work, and we will talk when I actually finish something. Okay, bye. Hi friends, it is Thursday, and last night I ended up finishing The Great Alone, and I gave it 4 stars. And it was really, really good. It would have been a 5-star if the ending hadn't happened. Storytelling was really good. I felt like it was so atmospheric, and you could feel for the characters. And a certain particular thing happens to a certain particular character that I hate, I was like cheering, so happy. And I think it was just really well done. I'm gonna get into spoilers, so if you haven't read this and you don't want to know what happens at the end, then skip ahead. But I think what ruined it for me, or the reason that I gave it 4 stars, is because Matthew makes a full recovery. Know how realistic that is, and by that I say it's not realistic at all. And I know that people like their stories wrapped up in a happy bow, but I just didn't really like it. I would have liked a little more realism there in a story that I feel like was about a real person's life, if that makes sense. Like channeling real events, real families, and just making you feel like you're part of this person's life for the years that you're with them. So it just kind of felt a little unrealistic that is how it ended. But other than that, I thought it was fantastic, and I'm very excited to read other books by this author. I'll probably skip The Nightingale, which I think is their most popular one. I also started the audiobook for Neon Gods by Katie Robert. This is the Hades and Persephone retelling, except it's like modern day. I am not very far into it. I got to the part where they kind of broker a deal. It's good, as all Katie Robert books generally are. I'm enjoying it. It has a connection to the Sabine Valley series, so I'm interested to see where that eventually is going to overlap in the future, but I am enjoying it. Other than that, I don't think I've started anything else. I haven't really listened to any more of his and hers, just because like my prime audiobook listening is in my car, and like I said, the audiobook just doesn't work in my car. But other than that, that's kind of all the reading I've done. The Great Alone audiobook was like 17 or 18 hours, so it took me a while to get through it, and I don't know necessarily that it needed to be that long, but I still liked it. That's the update. I'm feeling like reading something like an ebook, a romance, something like that. I know I said earlier that I was going to start Den of Vipers, but I think I want to save that for something coming up. We'll talk later when I've finished something else, because that seems to be the only time I even remember to update you guys. So I've decided to redo my shelves. I'm going to be doing by genre and then by alphabet or publication year. Depends on how hard I want to make it on myself. So let's get started. friends, it is now Monday. I forgot to wrap the reading vlog yesterday. I spent the weekend with my mom, so I didn't get a whole lot of reading done. And then when I came back, I ended up rearranging my bookshelves like 5 times and watching Twitch, so you know how that goes. I did end up finishing Neon Gods by Katie Robert, and I gave it 5 stars. It is fucking phenomenal. It's going to be in my top favorites of the year. A Hades and Persephone retelling, and in the beginning of the book, Persephone is at a party and her mom blindsides her with the fact that she is going to be engaged to Zeus, and in this world Zeus is awful. He's murdered his last 3 wives, and he's just like your stereotypical Zeus, right? And he controls the upper city. Poseidon controls, like, obviously trade and the ocean and things like that, and the docks, and then the lower city is controlled by Hades. Hades is like kind of a myth. No one really knows if he is even alive. The title of, like, the gods' titles they're all humans, but their titles are passed through in different ways. So, like, her mom, Demeter, was elected. Zeus is a legacy line, so it's passed down through your kids. So is Hades, and I'm assuming Poseidon is the same way. So they think that Hades' family line has died off. She ends up escaping the party where their engagement is announced, and she's being hunted by 2 of Zeus's men. So she runs to the lower city. Go on a bridge that goes over the river Styx. And this is kind of where a little bit of, like, the magical element comes in. Just a tad. It's not super explained, but it's kind of the idea of, like, no one can cross the river Styx that doesn't have permission or whatever, or who isn't strong enough. And on the other side is waiting Hades. And Hades kind of takes in Persephone, and they strike a bargain. Persephone says, we will fake date for the 3 months until I turn 25 and can get my inheritance and leave. And that will get me out of my engagement with Zeus because he won't want me. He'll think that you ruined me. And then, of course, that will help Hades get back at Zeus. So that's kind of the story. They fake date. There's a lot of, like, sex parties and stuff, with some voyeurism, and it's really hot, and it's really, really good. I really, really liked Hades. He is definitely, like, a stern dom. He is a caretaker, so there is a dom-sub relationship between the two. He's very incredibly sweet. He's very, he doesn't really like being around other people, but he takes care of the people that he loves. He takes care of her almost immediately. And then Persephone is my favorite. She's a bratty sub, which I love. But I loved the story, and I'm very excited for more books in this series. I didn't read anything else. I haven't decided if I'm gonna give up on his and hers yet. I'm still only 30% of the way through the audiobook. But that is going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave your comment down below on your thoughts on any of the books that I talked about in the video. I would love to know it. Other than that, I will see you in my next one. Thanks so much for watching.